Welcome back to our channel. Before we dive into the untold story of World War I, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content. Welcome back to our channel. Before we dive into the untold story of World War I, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content. Hey there, history buffs. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you never miss an update from us. Now let's explore the untold story of World War I. Have you ever wondered what ignited the flames of World War I? It's a question that has piqued the curiosity of historians and students alike. The beginnings of the Great War, World War I, are complex and multifaceted. It wasn't an event that happened in isolation, but rather a culmination of tensions and conflicts that had been brewing for decades among the world's superpowers. The late 19th and early 20th centuries were a period of great change and upheaval. Nations were rapidly industrializing, territories were being claimed and contested, and alliances were being forged and broken. All of these factors set the stage for a conflict on a scale the world had never seen before. But what was the spark that ignited this powder keg of tensions? That would be the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary. Franz Ferdinand was the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his death on June 28, 1914, was the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. He and his wife Sophie killed in Sarajevo, the of Bosnia, by a young Bosnian Serb nationalist named Gavrilo Princip. Assassination did not just result in the death of royal couple, it also sparked a chain reaction that led to the outbreak of World War I. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand was a significant event because Austria-Hungary, backed by Germany, declared war on Serbia in response. Serbia was allied with Russia, and so Russia mobilized its troops in Serbia's defense. This triggered a series of alliances and treaties that pulled in countries from all over the world. This event in Sarajevo set the stage for the greatest war the world had ever seen. The assassination of a single archduke led to a global conflict that would last for 4 long years, claim millions of lives, and forever change the course history. The spark had been, and the world was on the brink of war. In the next part of our video, we will delve into the alliance system that turned this spark a-raging, so stay tuned as we continue to unravel the complex web of events that... How did the assassination of one man lead to a global conflict? The answer to this question lies in the intricate web of alliances that existed before the outbreak of World War I. The world was divided into 2 major alliances, the Central Powers and the Allies. Each alliance was a group of nations bound together by mutual agreements to defend each other in the event of an attack. Let's start with the Central Powers. This alliance was primarily made up of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. These nations had agreed to support each other militarily in case any of them were attacked by Russia. This was mainly due to their shared borders and the rising tensions in Eastern Europe. On the other side of the spectrum, we have the Allies. This alliance was composed of France, Russia, and the United Kingdom. Their alliance was based on a mutual distrust of the Central Powers and a shared fear of the potential for German expansion across Europe. Now, when the Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary was assassinated by a Serbian nationalist, it set off a chain reaction. Austria-Hungary, backed by Germany, declared war on Serbia. Russia, being an ally of Serbia, mobilized its forces to defend its Slavic brethren. France and the United Kingdom, bound by their alliance with Russia, were then obligated to join the fray. And just like that, because of a series of agreements, alliances, and mutual commitments, a local conflict escalated into a global war. It's like a domino effect, with each domino representing a nation. Once one falls, it triggers the next, until they've all toppled over. This is the power and the peril of alliances. They can provide security and deter aggression, but they can also escalate conflicts and draw nations into wars they might have otherwise avoided. The stage was now set and the players were ready for what would be known as the Great War. So when did the world plunge into this catastrophic conflict? Well, it all began in the heart of Europe in the summer of 1914. The first domino to fall was the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which declared war on Serbia on July 28, 1914. This was in response to the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, a tragedy that would set the world on fire. But the Austro-Hungarian Empire and Serbia were not the only players on this global stage. The complex network of alliances of the time meant that this was not to remain a localized conflict. With a sense of inevitability, other nations began to take sides. Germany, bound by its dual alliance with Austria-Hungary, declared war on Russia on August 1st. 2 days later, they declared war on Russia's ally, France. With Germany's invasion of neutral Belgium on August 4th, Britain, a guarantor of Belgium's neutrality, entered the war against Germany and Austria-Hungary. Meanwhile, in the east, Russia was not standing idle. It declared war on the Ottoman Empire on November 2, 1914, bringing another major power into the fray. This set in motion a chain of events that would drag the whole world into war. By the end of 1914, most of Europe was embroiled in the war. The Central Powers, consisting of Germany, Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria, were locked in a deadly struggle against the Allies, which included Russia, France, Britain, Italy, and later Japan and the United States. As the war raged on, more and more nations found themselves drawn into the conflict. By 1918, more than 30 countries, including far-flung nations like Australia, Canada, India, New Zealand, and South Africa, were involved, making it a truly global war. Each nation entered the war with its own motives and objectives, but all were soon caught in a web of violence and destruction that was unlike anything the world had ever seen. With the war now in full swing, the world would never be the same again. What were the pivotal moments and battles of this war? Let's dive into the major turning points and confrontations that shaped World War I. Firstly, we find ourselves at the Battle of the Marne, which took place in early September 1914. This was the first major turning point in the war. The German forces were advancing rapidly towards Paris, but the Allies, primarily French and British forces, managed to halt their progress. Over 6 days, the Allies launched a counter-offensive that pushed the Germans back, preventing the quick victory Germany had hoped for. Instead, the Western Front settled into a stalemate, with a continuous line of trenches stretching from the English Channel to the Swiss border. Moving forward to 1916, we come to the Battle of Verdun. The longest single battle of the war, the German High Command planned to bleed France white in a war of attrition. French forces, however, held their ground in an epic struggle lasting almost 10 months. The human cost was enormous, with hundreds of thousands of casualties on both sides. This battle, more than any other, symbolized the futility and horror of trench warfare. The Battle of the Somme in the same year was another critical confrontation. The British and French launched this offensive to relieve pressure on the French at Verdun. The first day remains the bloodiest in the history of the British Army, with nearly 60,000 casualties. Yet, it did succeed in drawing German forces away from Verdun, allowing the French to eventually repel the German offensive. Now, let's turn our attention to the technological innovations and strategies that significantly impacted the war. World War I was a time of rapid technological advancement. The machine gun, which had been around in a primitive form, was perfected and mass-produced, leading to devastating effects on the battlefield. Artillery also saw major improvements, with high explosive shells and more accurate targeting causing unprecedented destruction. The war in the skies was a new frontier of combat. The use of airplanes for reconnaissance, bombing runs, and dogfights changed the face of warfare. Similarly, the advent of armored tanks provided a solution to the deadlock of trench warfare, offering a way to cross no man's land and break through enemy lines. Lastly, we must mention the introduction of chemical warfare, a terrifying innovation that would have profound implications. The Germans were the first to use chlorine gas in 1915 at the Second Battle of Ypres, causing panic and death in the Allied trenches. This marked the beginning of a deadly arms race to develop more potent and lethal gases. These battles and innovations defined the course and outcome of the war. They shaped the strategies, dictated the flow of troops and resources, and ultimately determined the winners and losers of the Great War. The human cost was immense, and the world was forever changed by these pivotal moments and battles. So, when and why did the United States join this global conflict, you might ask? Up until 1917, the United States had maintained a policy of neutrality, watching the war unfold from across the Atlantic. But two key events shifted the tide and ultimately led to the country's involvement. The first was the sinking of the British ocean liner, the Lusitania, in May of 1915. A German U-boat torpedoed the ship, which was carrying nearly 2,000 passengers, including 128 Americans. The incident caused an international outcry and turned public opinion in many countries against Germany. While this event alone did not push the United States into the war, it certainly set the stage. The second and perhaps more decisive event was the interception and publication of the so-called Zimmermann telegram in January of 1917. This secret diplomatic communication from the German Foreign Office proposed a military alliance between Germany and Mexico in the event of the United States entering the war. The telegram promised significant territorial gains to Mexico, including the return of lands lost during the Mexican-American War. When the British intelligence services intercepted and decoded this message, they quickly shared it with the United States government. The publication of the Zimmermann telegram in American newspapers caused a public furor, and it's safe to say that it was the final straw that led President Woodrow Wilson to ask Congress to declare war on Germany. On April 6, 1917, Congress granted Wilson's request, and the United States officially entered World War I. This marked a significant shift in the conflict, with fresh American troops and resources bolstering the weary Allied forces. The entry of the United States into the war was a critical moment that would have far-reaching consequences. It marked the beginning of the end for the Central Powers and set the stage for the United States to emerge as a global superpower in the years to come. The entry of the US marked a turning point that would shape the end of the war. How did this devastating war come to an end? This question brings us to the final chapter of the Great War, a saga of human courage, sacrifice, and ultimately, the quest for peace. It is the 11th day of November, 1918. On this day, the guns fell silent. The armistice, a formal agreement to stop fighting, was signed in a railway carriage in the forest of Compiègne, France. This marked the cessation of hostilities on the Western Front, a significant step towards the end of World War I. Yet, an armistice is not a peace treaty. The war had ended in terms of battles and immediate bloodshed, but the official peace treaty was yet to be signed. This brings us to the Treaty of Versailles, which was signed on June 28, 1919, in the Palace of Versailles, France. The treaty had severe terms imposed on Germany, the main aggressor as deemed by the Allied powers. Germany was held responsible for causing the war and was required to make reparations, that is, pay for the damage caused during the war. The amount was staggering, equivalent to hundreds of billions of dollars today. Germany was also subjected to territorial losses, losing around 13% of its land and all of its overseas colonies. Its military was drastically reduced, and it was forbidden from forming an alliance with Austria. These harsh conditions bred resentment and discontent in Germany, setting the stage for future conflict. The Treaty of Versailles was a controversial peace treaty. Some thought it was too harsh, others not harsh enough. It was a delicate balance, attempting to ensure peace and stability while punishing those responsible for the war. The war had changed the world in ways unimaginable. Empires crumbled, new nations were born, and the world map was redrawn. It was a time of great change, and with it came a new world order. The Great War had finally come to an end, but its consequences would shape the world for decades to come. And with that, we wrap up the story of World War I, a war that was supposed to be the war to end all wars, yet it was only the beginning of a tumultuous century. So, what do we take away from World War I? As we've journeyed through the stages of the Great War, we've seen how the intricate web of alliances, nationalistic fervor, and a single spark ignited a flame that consumed the globe. From the initial spark in Sarajevo to the trenches in France, the impact of World War I was far-reaching and profound. It transformed global politics, economies, and societies in ways we still feel today. The war brought about significant geopolitical changes. Empires crumbled, new nations emerged, and the map of the world was redrawn. It marked the end of monarchies in Russia, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. It paved the way for the rise of the United States and Japan as world powers. On the economic front, World War I ushered in an era of unprecedented government control over economies. Nations mobilized their economies for war, leading to massive public debt, inflation, and eventually the Great Depression. It set the stage for the economic upheavals and challenges of the 20th century. Society, too, underwent drastic changes. The war shattered the illusion of a peaceful and progressive world. It introduced a new kind of warfare, marked by trenches, tanks, and poison gas. It led to a loss of innocence and a deep disillusionment among people. Women's roles evolved as they stepped into jobs previously held by men, leading to greater demands for gender equality. Perhaps most importantly, World War I set the stage for another global conflict, World War II. The Treaty of Versailles, meant to ensure peace, sowed the seeds of resentment in Germany. It led to economic hardship and political instability, providing fertile ground for the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. So, as we reflect on World War I, we must remember that its echoes reverberate through history. It reshaped the world in ways that still impact us today. World War I, a war to end all wars, in reality, laid the groundwork for conflicts and tensions that continue to shape our world today. And that's a wrap on the untold story of World War I. We hope you enjoyed this journey through history, from the spark that ignited the war to its far-reaching consequences. We've explored how alliances, battles, and the entrance of the US changed the course of the war, and how the end of the war set the stage for the geopolitical, economic, and societal changes that followed. And most importantly, we have seen how the seeds of resentment sowed by the Treaty of Versailles led to the emergence of another global conflict, World War II. If you found this video informative and interesting, give us a thumbs up and it with your friends. Your support helps us to continue bringing these untold stories of history to life. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more amazing content. We have a lot more fascinating stories to share with you, so stay tuned. Until next time, keep exploring history with us. Remember, understanding our past is the key to shaping our future. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content. Thanks for watching.